Howdy goons, it's been a long time coming, but I'm finally checking out Gamma OS Next on the RG Vita base model. When I bought the RG Vita, I got it with the intent to review it and see if I had a handheld that I could recommend as an alternative to the Neo Pocket Air Mini. Despite loving the PAM, it had its issues, and I don't feel good recommending it when mine and others have developed cracks spontaneously. Not all of them have it, but you don't want to gamble. The RG Vita isn't a gamble. It has similar specs, but it is a little bit worse, but it is about the same price. If you ignore the fact that this was marketed as a Vita handheld emulator and it can't do Vita, it's a good handheld. It's pretty powerful for the price and quite large. Now that Gamma OS Next is out to the public, I can install it and squeeze out some more power. Basically, Gamma OS Next is a custom operating system built on Android and removes some of the fluff, allowing us to use more of the power of the handheld. This is also my first time using Gamma OS Next, so I have a couple of things to say about it too. Before Gamma, the RG Vita base model would play Devil May Cry 3 at about 37 FPS, and on the PAM, it was 49 FPS with max power mode. If Gamma brings it up to even just 50 FPS, it makes a majority of the PS2 library playable, with some games like DMC 3 playable if you use the PAL ROM. So let's get a drum roll going. With the Gamma OS Next, DMC 3 gets 57 to 60 FPS. Yippee! That's excellent. The only issue is, on Vulkan, I get flickering, but if I mess with the settings more, I can probably fix that. I also used ARM SX2 to play it because it's the only Android PS2 emulator with retro achievement support on it, and that's what I care about, is having retro achievement support. But hey, this performance isn't just better, it's better than the 3GB Pocket Air Mini model. On OpenGL, where I don't have these texture issues, I got around 53 to 56 FPS, but it's still better than the Pocket Air Mini was. So even with texture flickering making it unplayable, you can still use OpenGL with a better frame rate. With PAL ROMs, this is full speed. If you don't care about retro achievements, then this is playable for you. Retro achievements, you kind of need to be able to hit that 60 FPS because depending on the person who makes the retro achievement set, they're going to build them for different versions of the game. A lot of them will be built for PAL because PAL has more language support, but a lot of them are made by Americans and will have sets for the American version of the game. So unfortunately, you do need to be able to hit 60 FPS on a lot of games if you want to be able to do retro achievements with them. So I can't really recommend it for retro achievements for PS2 players, but yeah, there are still options for that if you absolutely have to be able to do it with this handheld, because I didn't even try sub-native resolutions where performance would be better if you don't mind a little bit of blurring. So you could play this on 0.75 times resolution and it would probably hit that 60 FPS, and then you'd be able to do retro achievements because you'd be able to get 60 FPS, but having sub-native resolution as an option does let you squeeze out that extra bit of performance too. Obviously, if you wanted perfect PS2 though, you wouldn't be getting the RG Vita or the PAM. But if you're stuck between these two, the Vita Base or Pro are both better as long as you use Gamma OS Next. The Pro should be better than the base model Pocket Air Mini as well, but I don't have one. I just got the regular Vita because the point was to do the cheapest option. The RG Vita base model with Gamma is better than the Pocket Air Mini 3GB without Gamma. So if you want something with similar or better performance than the Pocket Air Mini without any of the issues of the Pocket Air Mini or Neo themselves, you now have that option. It's the RG Vita with Gamma. So let's talk a bit about Gamma and why you might not want to use it, because there are a couple of issues with it that I can see people having. So the first issue is the installation process is a bit rough. There isn't a video for setting it up for the RG Vita. You have to follow along with an older tutorial video or use the written instructions. And in terms of ability, not everybody is able to follow written instructions that well. If you're dyslexic or something like that, or you have reading comprehension issues, you might have some trouble with this. The written instructions are also a little techie for the average Joe, so if you're not familiar with some of this terminology, it's going to be a little scary. And if you were too scared to install custom firmware on your Linux handheld, like MinUI or MuOS or something like that, if you found that process too scary, this is going to be even more scary for you. I was frequently questioning whether I was doing things right, and I would constantly double check what I was doing, but in the end I did end up doing it right and didn't have to restart or reflash the stock and do it from there. I didn't have any issues, I didn't brick mine, I did it all right first try. The second issue is more of a matter of personal taste. If you don't like Daigisho, you won't like Gamma, because as its home screen, it's just Daigisho. Personally, I use Daigisho as my front end regardless, so it's easy enough to use, and for the most part, a lot of things do come pre-set up on this. You only need to provide your own BIOS, then set up any additional features like retro achievement shaders and additional apps like ARMSX2 because it doesn't come with PS2 by default. It also does come with your favorite systems pre-set up, like your Game Boy Advance and stuff like that. That's all pre-set up. If you like some more obscure systems like the WonderSwan, you're going to have to go in and set it up yourself, but the majority is pre-set up, and that's pretty great. So it can be easier to set up if you're able to get through that first part of the initial setup on the device. It is in the long run easier than doing it all from scratch on stock. If you can deal with those two issues, then the RG Vita is just much better than the PAM, unless you get Gamma on the PAM. But if you're really against using Aya Neo, the RG Vita with Gamma OS Next is pretty great. It takes this $120 handheld and pushes it up to $150 performance. And that's pretty much it. There just isn't much to say here. Gamma OS Next makes Android handhelds run better, but I think that was pretty well known already. For the majority of handhelds, you should use Gamma when it's available, but for systems without sticks like the RG Rotate, you can leave them stock, because having that extra power is going to do nothing for the RG Rotate. Thanks for watching, and thanks to the Goon Elite who support me through members on YouTube. My stinkers, like Pupper Ra, Fabronaut, Linky, Willie Pete, and Dragon Fanatic. I'll see you all later. I have to keep refreshing the Ambernex site. I'm waiting for the RGSP to finally become available. Bye!